As for those things herein alleged, I have good reason and multiple reliable sources which lead me to believe they are true. You don't operate what was obviously a global blackmail scheme involving the world's most influential politicians and not have a dead man switch in place in case your blackmail victims decided you were too dangerous to breathe any more of this planet's oxygen. So if the world's most prolific Cho-mo is dead, where is the dead man switch? Let us just postulate for a moment and try to reason out the possible scenarios swirling and stinking around what is very shortly likely to become the biggest political scandal that this planet has ever experienced. But first, allow me to propose an axiom to follow when we crowdsource the information we've been given. The workability of a postulate is established by the degree to which it explains existing phenomena which is already known, by the degree that it predicts new phenomena which, when looked for, will be found to exist, and by the degree that it does not require that phenomena which do not exist in fact be called into existence for explanation. First of all, we have a number of inconsistencies both with statistical probabilities and with the normal everyday operation of any jail or prison in the country. We have one of the most high-value prisoners ever in world history, and he is not in isolation with 24/7 guards. Cameras fail, electrical power in the part of the city where he's being held fails at the moment of his alleged failed attempt at suicide. He later succeeds when guards fall asleep at their posts with CCTV cameras failing, and nobody notices for 3 hours. We have a last will and testament signed 2 days before his death, which effectively ties a Gordian clusterfuck of a legal knot for any of his victims to sue his estate, or for the government to seize any of his assets without paying shyster lawyers more in legal fees than the assets thereafter are worth. Why would a man who is secretly planning to leave this world do that? And to compound the inconsistencies with the alleged facts, if the truth were being told in any of this, there is the glaring lack of information that should be made public which has never been released, such as a photo of the man hanging from a cell that is designed to prevent such an occurrence. Of course, we all saw the photo of a man on a gurney who looked like Epstein at first glance or in a newspaper photo, but whose identity was proven by truthers not to be him, because his nose and ears were markedly different from photos taken of him when he was alive. Nice try, mainstream media, but no cigar on that bullshit story. We have the curious delay of autopsy results, which involves a clear-cut prognosis. Are the injuries sustained consistent with hanging in a jail cell, or are they indicative of some burly dude choking the Cho-mo out? It's not rocket science. We have the delay and the demand for a second opinion because somebody is trying desperately to make their bullshit stories credible to the ignorant mainstream media watching public. Hello, this is Dave from Net4 Truth, USA Whirlwind Revolt. It is August 23rd, 2019, and this Epstein thing just will not go away. We have a number of inconsistencies, corresponding facts that should fit together very nicely if the mainstream media and the powers that be were telling us the truth. But these inconsistencies and violations of the laws of probability just keep stacking up, and the whole thing can be wrapped up by saying 2 words: bullshit story. End of sentence. This is one of the most incredible scandals ever because it involves high-ranking politicians and even members of Parliament and the son of the Queen of England. And we know that these people hung around Jeffrey Epstein long after he was convicted of the charges of, and it just pains me to even say it, going with a prostitute that degrades the victim to the level of a prostitute. A 14-year-old girl cannot be a prostitute. She is a victim of child trafficking. We have his ties, obviously, to New York politicians who I believe tried to make this possible. They tried with the first attempt. They put the guy in a cell with a big burly dude who was already accused of 4 murders and is possibly going to blow trial because of evidence against him. I don't know anything about his case. Nobody's looked into that case. And he allegedly tries to commit suicide with the guy in the cell with him. And the guy in the cell with him found him. How do you find somebody who you're no more than 4 feet away from? How do you find him? Bullshit. So his first attempt failed. Then he said, well, he tried to commit suicide, but really what happened is the guy in his cell next to him, bunking with him, tried to choke him out and failed because probably the guard stopped him. So they put him on suicide watch, not to mark him as a snitch, as if it matters. You're a serial child rapist, and you're in jail, in prison, and you're going to be also labeled as a snitch. Huh, unbelievable. So here's probably what happened. They took him off a suicide watch because he snitched on the guy that used to be his cellmate. Then they took him out of the cell and put him in a cell by himself because he wasn't suicidal. Then they try to whack him again. They being whoever. And the good guys trying to whack him because the good guys are trying to get him to testify. So I think the black hats try to whack him. And in New York, that's entirely possible because when you get too close to an investigation, when you get too close to the facts in New York State, there's people are going to whack you. They're going to discredit you. They're going to do what Saul Alinsky said to do when somebody accuses you of a crime. You blame that guy. He did it. You know, who robbed the cookie jar? It's you and your sister. Oh, she did it. No, he did it. She did it. He did it. And nobody knows. So that's the way New York politics works. Abandoned farmhouses notwithstanding, that's how it works. Okay? If you're in jail or in prison as one of these people, you do not last long. They will beat you. They will sodomize you. They will kill you in the shower. And if you sign into protective custody and you snitch on somebody, there will be people signing into protective custody just to get to a cell next to you so that when you and him may be out in the shower or out for rec somewhere, he's going to stab you with a toothbrush. That's the way it works. That's the way it really works. And if you don't believe it, go to my prison playlist. I'll leave a link in the description. And just look at some of those prison documentaries there, and you will know beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty that what I'm telling you is the absolute empirical truth. So, somebody who's got the goods on all of these people, politicians, corporate leaders, and this is what escapes me. If you blackmail somebody that knows somebody that's going to his house with you, why won't you tell, hey, don't go there because this guy's got video cameras everywhere, and if you do something that you're not supposed to be doing, he's going to have you on videotape, and he'll have you by the como se llamas. Why don't person A tell person B? Because by telling person B, he admits that he got caught up in the bullshit. And then maybe person B would threaten to put him out on Front Street. I don't know how the hell that shit works. But obviously, this guy had videotapes and video recordings of all these people doing shit on his island, in his house in Manhattan, on his ranch in New Mexico, and he had all of this. He was like J. Edgar Hoover on steroids. He was working for the CIA and the Mossad. That's been established. Both of them at the same time. He was like a double agent. Now the FBI was wanting to get in on this because, hey, you know, we're a corrupt organization and we'd like to have something on somebody, so he probably snitched to them. And who's got the dead man switch? See, if I was going to do some shit like that, I'd give a copy of all these tapes to a friend of mine and say, hey, look, if anything happens to me, I did not commit suicide. Just dump this shit on the internet and dump it everywhere you can and put these people out on Front Street. And I'll tell the people that, listen, I got a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that if anything happens to me, all the shit that I got on you will be dropped. And that'll be the end of you. Where's the dead man switch? Maybe they found it. And instead of doing what they should be doing with it, prosecuting all the people that are in this treasure trove of incriminating videotapes, they say, wait a minute, you know, why should I prosecute this guy? He's dead, if he's dead, or if he's in witness protection, which I believe he is. Why don't I keep this evidence, and now I'm the guy who's calling the shots? You follow what I'm saying? If they found out where the dead man switch was, and maybe he's got a box buried on his island somewhere. That's why he sent the cement machines in there to bury all the tunnels and all the shit that he had underneath his island. Because he knew that some of the machines that we have over here only go down a couple of meters. You know, maybe 6 feet, 8 feet the most. And that's why Vladimir Putin lent us secret Soviet ground-penetrating radar that goes down 15 meters. That's 45 feet approximately. So anything he's got buried on that island is going to be found by the people using that equipment. And Vladimir Putin, he wasn't going to let us use the equipment. He sent his people over to operate it for us. So whatever he's got buried better be buried on at least 60 feet of concrete. Otherwise, they're going to find it. And even if they don't find it, they'll probably dig it. Why would you put all this concrete here if not something underneath it? They'll be like archaeologists with the picks, picking that shit out. So he's got something buried somewhere. That's why he needed to testify. Not only do they have all the video evidence that they found in his house, hundreds, probably thousands of pictures of naked children and children doing things they shouldn't be doing. In which case, you don't need any federal charges. You don't need any other stuff. Yeah, every picture, for every photograph, child pornography photograph you have, every one, they could give you 2 years in prison. So if you have 100 photos of naked kids on your computer, that's 200 years if you run it consecutively. You'll never get out of jail. That's enough. Why prosecute him for all the other shit? We know he's guilty. Fuck it. 200 pictures, we run the sentence consecutively, he's done. He's done. Why waste the taxpayers' money? Why would somebody like this not have a will and sign a will 2 days before he commits suicide, when he was all happy and to his lawyer say, I'll see you Saturday, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden he hangs himself with a bed sheet in a cell that's designed so you can't hang yourself. Where are the pictures of this guy hanging from his cell? Where is it? Because the first thing they do when they find some guy hanging from his bed or from the bars in his cell, they go in there and they don't touch it. They don't touch nothing. They go in there with the cameras and they take pictures. Where's the pictures? There is no pictures because the guy's not dead. The guy didn't hang himself. The guy was either arkancided or he was spirited out under witness protection. One or the other. One or the other. It's one or two. Black hats or white hats. Take your pick. In either case, he's as good as dead, because if he ever shows up alive, the mainstream media and all of the prison officials and all the politicians that were proposing that this guy was dead and testifying that he was dead and testifying that they did an autopsy will all be shown to be full of shit, and they could be brought up on charges of conspiracy to cover up all of his crimes. Because by doing that, they are aiding and abetting. Follow what I'm saying? They're aiding and abetting. So say this guy is in witness protection now. They got the goods on everybody. And he could never, ever show his face again. They'd probably put plastic surgery. They do the sonobella thing. They straighten out the nose. They do the eyes. You know what I mean? Nobody would, hey, you look like Jeffrey Epstein. No, I'm not him. Not him. This whole thing stinks. The statistical probability of a camera failing within the 3-hour time frame that somebody who's the highest profile criminal probably ever locked up in a jail ever in this country is practically zero. Add to that what they're saying, that the guards fell asleep and the cameras were out because they couldn't. Who turned the cameras off while the guards were asleep? Nobody noticed that the cameras were off. Nobody knows when they look at the TV screen that's supposed to be trained on the hallway looking down Epstein's cell that the thing ain't working, and maybe they should call maintenance. Oh, they called maintenance, but they told the guards they're going to do some maintenance, and the guards were told to take a hike. We're doing some routine maintenance. I don't know what maintenance you do in a jail or a prison that you take the guards and make them take a hike somewhere. That doesn't happen, because the maintenance guy could give the guy a hammer or a screwdriver, cell phone, whatever. Does not happen. So that's a bullshit story too. And now they're trying to cover up the bullshit story. Where's the judge? The judge could say, let me see the body. I want to see the body with my two eyeballs. I want to see the body. I want to make sure it's him. And I want to have an independent DNA guy come in and take his DNA and make sure that's not a dummy or a clone or whatever, somebody else that you got laying on that slab in the morgue. And if you don't do that, if I'm not satisfied that this guy is actually dead, then we're going to try him in absentia. Like he skipped bail or like he escaped from prison. And when we find him, we find him. And all of this other stuff, this will that he did, throw that out. Throw that out. Some people say that the will was forged, but there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of a will. But if there is a will, they say it's what it is, a 1953 will. That's what he named it, 1953 will. Who could he have given it to prevent the government and his victims from suing his estate? That's action after the fact. If somebody has a cause of action to sue you or has a lawsuit in progress, you cannot empty out your bank account, sell your house, sell your car, sell your boat, and get away with paying the people who are suing you because you divested yourself of all your assets. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. He sold his plane because there's probably evidence on that plane that these people who claim to be on that plane were actually there. He sent a cement mixer and a professional carpet peeling machine that peels. I guess he glued the carpet to the floor. That has like a little thing that goes back and forth to actually pry the carpet with the glue off the floor and clean the floor, because there's probably, who knows what's on the floor. Who knows? He paid for the cement mixer and ensured that it would be returned safely or whatever, and I guess he had to ship the cement in and somebody to do the work to bury all his evidence that he had underneath his little temple there. Believe me, this is going to come out, because if it was up to the mainstream media, you would never hear it. You would never hear about it. Never hear about it. Because I guarantee you, this is only a speculation, but I guarantee you that a lot of these mainstream media moguls are involved with this shit. They're compromised. That's why President Trump could cure cancer tomorrow. He could rescue puppy dogs out of a burning building, and they will still badmouth him 24/7. Because the people that own them are involved with this shit. And we are not going to stop digging until we get to the bottom of this rabbit hole. And believe me, when I started this shit 3 years ago, I never would have thought that it would take this long, that I would still be doing this shit 3 years later. But such a mess has been uncovered only by us here on the internet. Nobody pays me to do this shit. I gotta survive by selling T-shirts. And by the way, at the end of this video, you'll see some really awesome T-shirts. And we're gonna start doing this because it takes money to do this. It takes time to do this. Doing these videos and editing and uploading and making these videos factual, making them concise, and making them to the point and something that you would want to watch is not an easy task. It takes an average of 6 hours to do a video, not counting the time that it takes to do the research behind the subject of what you're doing the video about. So for me, I'm retired, but this is my second career, but I am getting paid next to nothing because the channel is not monetized. I don't plan to monetize it because they'll delete half the videos if I do, until they straighten that mess out. And we uncovered a lot of stuff about the company who runs this venue that said that Epstein died in Vietnam in an old Hanoi war bunker. And I'll leave that link in the video below too. They had the whole thing indexed that said Jeffrey F. When you do a search, and Stoney's girlfriend did it by accident. I guess the autocomplete did something. I haven't got the explanation, but how she came up with this search term. But when the search result came back, it had the text that supposedly you would think would be in the article that the search engine linked to. And when you clicked on the link, there was nothing there about him committing suicide. It was about a bunker in Hanoi, but nothing about Epstein locking himself into one of the chambers and committing suicide. So that is suspicious as well. Just like Fox News accidentally put up an obituary for Ruth Bader Ginsburg that said she died. Oh, we made a mistake. Oh, we just prepare these things for when people croak. We prepare an obituary so that when somebody croaks unexpectedly, that we have the thing queued up. Boom, we got it like that. And if sparrows had banjos in their asses, there would be music in the air. Straight like that. But the ain't-ons are digging. We're trying to pick the fly shit out of pepper. And believe me, there's a lot of fly shit in the pepper. But is it worth it? Is it worth it? What are we going to find when we get to the end of this? That half of Congress is involved in raping little children and they're all on tape doing it? Because that's what it would take. That's what it would take to do something like was allegedly done in the Manhattan Correctional Center. Higher ups telling the lower down people, their subordinates, to cover this shit up. I don't know how else you would do it. How would you, as a deep state operative, go into a federal correctional facility and bribe somebody to look the other way while you got this big burly guy walk into this Cho-mo cell and choke him the fuck out? How does that happen? How does that happen? And you can't hang yourself in one of those cells because the bunks are slabs of concrete. They're not like bunks, like two bunks in a bed like you got for your kids where you could tie a rope to the thing and hang yourself with it. And the guy's over 6 feet tall. How does he hang himself? He kneels down and he hangs himself with enough force to break multiple bones, including the hyoid bone, which is right here, including the hyoid bone in his neck. Doesn't happen. The guy's not dead. He's in witness protection, talking his ass off. Probably down in Gitmo. Who knows? But just as good as dead to us, because we'll never see him again. Otherwise, if he does show up alive, then all the mainstream media and everybody who's involved with this thing, saying that he's dead, saying they did an autopsy, saying they did a second autopsy, are going to be not only out of jobs, they'll be in prison with him because they covered up or attempted to cover up a crime. This is Dave from Net4 Truth USA Whirlwind Revolt. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you much for your prayers and your support. And check out these T-shirts. You're going to love them. Take care. Please subscribe to our backup channels, Whirlwind Revolt, Inglorious Patriots, and Net4 Truth USA 2 Patriot channel. You can also find us at Net4 Truth USA on BitChute. We fly so close to the target, we're on our 4th fighter jet. We will be relentless truth seekers until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/Net4TruthUSA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.